My thing was that I wanted to find connection with other people. And so I spent my entire life looking for that kind of connection. Never really had a solid one with my family.
Well, I think there's another phase. There's a phase where we get disappointed in our parents because we realize how human they actually are. They're no longer the hero, they're human.
Mm,
And then we
yeah,
get to the point where we realize that so are we.
it's called baggage for a reason. You take that with you.
If we don't change things, nothing's ever going to change. If we say that these are the patterns and these are the cycles and that's just how it is, we're not going to change or break the cycles.
So here you are alone in this time where you have to spend a lot of time looking at yourself in the mirror, seeing who you are, getting to know yourself. So
Refreshingly honest, refreshingly real, refreshingly human. A podcast about human experiences and shared connections. With your host, Hannah Pillow. Hi everyone, welcome back to Refreshingly Human with myself, Hannah Pillow. We are on season 4. We are talking about getting recharged for the new year. And you know what? I'm starting to feel it. How about you, Lee? Are you feeling it?
yes, I'm feeling it. We're just a couple of days out until the new year.
Yeah, well, by the time this comes out, we'll be well into the new year.
Yeah.
So,
This will be a good gauge to see what I've said here, if it's in fruition, if it's happening in February.
amazing, amazing. Yeah, I love that. So, yeah, guys, I have with me a very amazing guest today. He's just been doing some great work on the patterns of possibility. I love that name. So, Lee, would you like to introduce yourself to the guests?
Yes, my name is Lee Hopkins. My pronouns are he, him, his, and I am the founder of the Patterns of Possibility. And that is a coaching organization that helps people find the patterns in their lives and break them and become more confident and find their direction and find more resilience.
And how long have you been doing that for?
So I've been doing it for about a year. So I've been developing the coaching for about a year. The process has been just an ongoing life experience.
Okay. So a year with the coaching. Okay. Of course, I can totally relate to this being an ongoing life experience thing. That's what it is, right?
Mm-hmm.
But what motivated you to start this? And you know what? This season we have been hearing from so many coaches. So yeah, what prompted you to get into this?
Well, what prompted me to get into this was an experience that I had, was like, you would say rock bottom was the thing that usually motivates people, where I'm just always looking for, my thing was that I wanted to find connection with other people. And so I spent my entire life looking for that kind of connection. Never really had a solid one with my family. And since I grew up in Ohio, I thought, well, maybe I just need to move away from home. Went to college, couldn't find a connection there. I left the entire state of Ohio because I thought that was just a problem. So I moved to California. I thought, well, that'll be so much better. And I run into the same issue of not able to make these genuine connections. And then I get to where I am now, finally in Chicago. And still, I could not make those genuine connections. Then I had a bad breakup, and I realized that, wow, counseling, I went to counseling, and I went to learn something about cognitive behavioral therapy.
CBT. Big fan.
Yes, absolutely. And it was really helpful for me. It was really tangible results. And on top of that, I'm also an analyst. So I could recognize these patterns. And
Yeah. Oh, that's where it comes
yes,
from. Patterns of
yes.
possibility.
And so, yeah, exactly. And so I look back at my past, like Ohio to California to Chicago. Well, the common denominator was me. I was doing something. I was doing something that caused that trend. So moving from this here to this way, that way, it didn't change anything. So there's something within this pattern that needed to change. It was just like going to work and looking at a graph or a chart and seeing, well, what's different here? What can I change? What makes the difference? And so I realized that it's a pattern, a new possibility.
Wow. I just love that you said, you described that so vividly, like moving from place to place. And I love that you mentioned that because I know, like, when you move away, the problems that you think you're leaving behind, they follow you wherever you go. There's no running away from it. And I was in a very similar place as you, Lee. I also didn't connect really well with some people in my family, and I thought that leaving that behind was going to change
Hmm.
everything. And of course it did. It did
Right,
not.
exactly. It's called baggage for a reason. You take that with you.
It goes everywhere. Exactly. It's like
Hmm.
you literally gotta cut that cord. And to cut that cord, you have to actually, like you say, realize, what is it? What am I carrying around? Why am I carrying this around? And it
Absolutely.
it was very similar to you, is that I went when I moved to the UK, actually. So I moved from South Africa to Turkey and to the UK. And when I moved to the UK, well, when I was in Turkey, I was in therapy for a while. And
Mm.
when I moved to the UK, I went to therapy, I think 2 or 3 times since I've been here. But yeah, I had to do it. It's something I
Yeah.
had to do. There was no two ways about that.
Well, you have those experiences too. It's the things that you take along with you, and then you look back at those things that have happened, the moves that I've made. All I can do is learn from them. Resenting or relenting on them or wishing they were different. There's nothing that I can gain from that. I can get all the knowledge if I just take a look and say, well, I had to move because if I didn't move, I wouldn't have this experience of growth and learning. I'd
Oh
probably
no.
still be stuck trying to figure out how to connect with people.
For sure. I think when we move, I'm not sure if that was your experience, but I found when I moved, I was able to see the problem from a distance, and it was a lot easier to see the bigger picture when you remove yourself from it. Because I think when you're in it, it kind of
Oh, yeah.
consumes you, and you see things very blurry all around you. And then when you just separate yourself from it, you can be like, uh-huh, so that is what happened. And
Absolutely.
I'm not sure if you are able to, like, from where I'm sitting now in my life, I'm able to actually see both sides of the story, my side and the people who I didn't get along with. I can see their side of it. I can treat them as a human person,
Hmm.
acknowledge their emotions, acknowledge their
Absolutely.
side of it, their perspective, and respect that. But I couldn't do that when I was in it.
Absolutely. Yeah, it's like you're too close to the trees to see the forest, and then you can't see the entire thing. And I definitely relate to that, the experience where you're able to look back and able to see, well, it wasn't really all about me, whatever experiences they were having. They have their
Mm,
own life, they have their
mm.
own things, they have their own motivations, their trials and tribulations, and maybe I'm just in the way right now today. They don't know what to do. They don't know what to do. I'm just in the way, but it's not about me, and so I can completely understand that. All right, they have their own lives. It's like that moment when you realize that your parents are people. It's like they've had their
Yes.
own experiences, their own troubles, and it's like, oh wow, this is you're real. You have feelings. You're not just mom. you
It's
know.
it's it's kind of a cycle that we go through in life, right? Like, I think when we're little, we kind of like idolize our parents and we think that they are flawless human beings.
Hmm.
And then as we grow up, we kind of like, we go through the teenage phase and we hate them and everything's wrong with them.
Yeah.
And then we kind of like, I guess as we grow into adults, well, I think there's another phase. There's a phase where we get disappointed in our parents because we realize how human they actually are. They're no longer the hero, they're
Mm.
human. And then we
Yeah.
get to the point where we realize that so are we. We are human too.
That is real magic right there. I had not thought about it that way, but that totally makes sense. It's
Yeah.
like, yeah, that's the point where we can see, like, okay, they have their own life, and oh, looks like we have to make our own lives too.
Yes.
About the parents, the realization that they don't have their own, well, they have their own lives and their own experiences is a part of the pattern too. It's part of
Mm,
realizing that, well, what they learned is what they teach us. And if we're not conscious of what's going on with us or conscious of what's going on with them, then we just repeat it and we
mm-mm.
repeat and we repeat, and we never get any better. So that's where the pattern comes in. It's like, well, my mom has only been teaching what she learned. Like, what else can you do? You teach
Yeah.
what you see, you teach what you learn until you have a new experience. So moving away was definitely a big plus.
It was. And talking about that, like, we see the changes and we want to do, so, like, for example, if we have kids, we want to do things differently. I don't know if you've ever experienced this though. I've seen new parents who are doing things differently because they've seen patterns that they want to change, and their parents actually get offended by it.
Yeah.
It's like an insult to them, and it's not meant to be though. It's really not meant
No.
to be an insult. It's just like if we don't change things, nothing's ever going to change. If we say that these are the patterns and these are the cycles and that's just how it is, we aren't going to change or break the cycles. We're going to keep
Right.
feeding them.
Exactly. And the parents get all offended, like, well, what's wrong with what I taught you? I did the best I could. I did everything I could for you, and you're ungrateful. And you've
Oh,
got like
ungrateful.
all this
Oh,
stuff that
I feel like
has
that's a
nothing to
mom's
do.
favorite word.
You don't know how much energy it takes to put food in your mouth, and I'm cooking for you. You better eat that food
I
and
carried
stuff
you for
like that.
9 months. I
Yeah.
created life. You owe me everything.
Yeah. And then the classic, the return. The only thing that we have is, well, I didn't ask to be born. Okay.
I did
Okay.
not.
Yeah, that's all we've got in our ammunition for that.
Like, abortion's legal in some places. Can I
But
say that
15
on my
years after,
podcast?
I don't. But,
Oh,
totally, just like I'm not a parent, and I think it's really fortunate that I have not become a parent, because I think I would repeat the same
yeah,
things that I have learned. I mean, I
would
just
you?
only come in. Yeah, I think so. I mean, like I'm talking about like maybe 5, 10 years ago. Like if I'd become a parent, I think I would repeat the same things that I'd learned, because I hadn't really fully understood the emotional growth that I needed. I remember I was working in a warehouse, and I think I was just being my grumpy usual self. And I was like thinking that, of course, everyone around me was the problem and not me. And one of my coworkers, I think there was an HR manager at the time, and they were talking to me, and I was like, "Oh, this place is so awful, blah blah blah." And she said, "Well, think about who is in your family. What is it like? Because the people that you interact with in your life are like the people that are in your family. We attract people like that." And that was maybe 10 or so years ago, and I could not hear that at all. That was not something that permeated my brain at all. I was just like, wow, that is ridiculous. And you are no help. You're also part of the problem. And then after having more experiences, I'm thinking, wow, that is absolutely true. Like for me, I see that the people that I was meeting in Ohio were like the ones in California, or like the ones in Chicago, because I was doing the exact same thing I was. Like, for example, I thought something was going to be different if I would go meet people, instead of meeting them at a bar.
Mm.
I would go meet them at a soccer game, and we would kind of play soccer together, but we were drinking. And I would go somewhere else, and I would go like to a comedy club, like a meetup at a comedy club, but we were drinking. And so I never made a connection with those people that I met. And as soon as I found the common denominator, hey, I'm at places that are seemingly different, but the common denominator is alcohol.
Ah,
So let's remove that alcohol and go to a place that doesn't have alcohol.
okay.
So I ended up doing a Toastmaster thing. I went to Toastmasters.
Okay. And I
Yeah,
assume your club doesn't have alcohol.
they're lightly toasted, but they do not have alcohol.
You
It's
see,
the name
my,
of the
my
club.
experience is quite different to yours. I feel like I become the best of friends with people when I share a drink with them.
Oh, really?
Yeah,
Yeah.
it's quite the opposite for me. It's like I feel like my best bonds, my best moments with people are when we share a drink together and we really get to know each other. We have those intense conversations and we really connect and we really bond. I'm not talking about drinking till the point of oblivion, but just
Hmm.
sharing a drink with someone.
Oh yeah, it definitely gets people to open up. I mean, I think that there's tools and uses for everything. Like it depends on what you're using the alcohol for. So I would say that I was using the alcohol just to numb all of the
Yes.
things that were happening with me, and feeling like I have all this anxiety about talking to a person. And so I have to get a couple of drinks in me before I can actually talk and open up. And then
Oh,
here I am continuing to drink, and I forget everything we talked about.
okay. Yeah, now that makes sense. Yeah, for me, I am. shockingly not really hard, like not very
Res-
hard to talk to people. Shocker.
You're very friendly and relaxed and open. You're inviting, and then just
Yeah.
having a drink is just gonna make anyone even more relaxed. Just talking to you, I feel comfortable talking to you.
Amazing.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. What does that mean to you? I wanted to ask you, like you said you had difficulties creating, was it meaningful relationships? Is that the word you used?
Yes, meaningful
Genuine. You
relationships,
said genuine.
genuine, yes, genuine relationships. And what that means to me is that, well, my experience, yeah, the meaningful and genuine relationships comes from feeling like everything that is a relationship is a transaction. It's transactional. So all my relationships were like that. I give what I can. It's conditional love. It's conditional. The relationship, the friendship is conditional. It's based on what I can give to a person, what value I can offer to them, and that it's full of resentment because I would feel like I would need to get someone something or do something for someone, and I would expect them to read my mind and give me the attention and the respect that I thought I deserved because I
Mm,
did something for them. And so you can imagine my relationships were transactional like that. And I'm talking about like not just uh, friendships, but romantic relationships. That's just chaotic.
it is.
Yeah.
Just going to interrupt you listening for a brief second just to remind you to check out our social media pages. I am on Instagram as Refreshingly Human Podcast and Facebook as Refreshingly Human. I'd love if you could take a screenshot of yourself enjoying this episode and share it with a quote that you liked from the episode. You can hashtag Refreshingly Human Podcast and hashtag Hannah Pillow. I can't wait to see your shares on social media. Don't forget to tag me. And now I'll let you get back to it. I'm really impressed that you are became self-aware enough to recognize that. Because I actually recently was speaking to someone about social anxiety, and it's something that I suffered with for a very long time in my life. But I actually only realized recently that I actually don't have social anxiety anymore. It's just gone. And
I love that.
yeah, but and then she asked me how, and I had to like start thinking about this. And like I told her, it is genuinely a very, very long story, the how. But what you just said is largely what it centers around, is it centers around our expectations of other people. And it also centers around how much I love myself.
Mm-hmm.
So I think like my anxiety used to come from the fact that I never felt good enough. I never felt good enough for people to like me. I never felt good enough for anything. So if I had people in my life, in any sort of relationships, I was always questioning, why do they like me? Why are they around me? And then,
Mm-hmm.
and I think that's for me, that's where the whole bartering system would come from. Like I'm trying to get them to like me,
Mm-hmm.
and I want to do stuff for them, and I'm expecting them to do stuff in return. And that's where it came
Exactly.
from for me.
Yeah, yeah. And then you said the self-love. So it's like, well, they like me because I'm awesome. That's it. And then I imagine that's where you got to it. You're just like, I'm pretty awesome. Well,
Yeah, I mean, I kind of got to the point where, like, I think one of the breaking moments was my husband and I, we watch Bob's Burgers together. Have you ever watched Bob's Burger? Oh
love
my
that
God,
show. Love
so
it.
much love it. And what's the daughter's name? Louise.
Oh, Louise, yeah.
Oh,
Louise, Tina, Jean.
I love Louise, and I love her so much. And when I watch Bob's Burgers, I'm like, that's my daughter. And my husband looked at me one day and he's like, that's you. And I was like, I love her. I was like, I'm awesome. And that was like the first realization that I actually love who I am. What the hell am I doing? I love Louise, and she's basically me. Why don't I love me?
I love that. That's so like it's something that I wanted to explore myself is this idea because of the validation of seeing like yourself outside of yourself.
Mhm.
And I feel like I've been the last to know a lot of things about me. Like I've been the last to know that I'm a smart person, and I'm like people were telling me, "Oh, you're pretty sharp, aren't you?" I'm like, no, you're you're
Was that
creative. No, no, not really.
was that something about like maybe messages you were given when you were growing up? Like people were kind of like pigeonholing you growing up, so you never actually acknowledged what you actually were? Is that maybe
I
part of it?
I think it could I'm thinking, and the way I was raised, because outside of me, people were telling me that, oh, you're creative, you're doing this. Oh, you're smart, you're doing this. But I think it was inside the family and the extended family and so forth. It's just like, well, you know, you're only as good as what you can give to me. And
Uh-huh.
that just kind of destroyed a lot of the things outside of me, like understanding that. But like seeing the reflection of myself and like seeing like, oh well, I see somebody that I admire and they look like me and they're saying, hey, you are just like me, we're just like, and I'm like, oh, I guess we are. And then that realization, take it on, it's like, so I can be creative, I can do things. It's a
Mm.
big part of why I started doing my podcast. Honestly, there was someone in my life who just came into my life pretty late in life, like maybe 2 years ago, and we clicked, and we're just so much alike. And I'm just like, well, you're awesome, and I like all the stuff that you're doing, and you tell me I'm awesome, and you like all the stuff I'm doing. Cool. That's really validating and refreshing to hear that. And then now I can just, I think it's all I needed. Now I can just step into that and say that, hey, this
Mm.
is me, and I feel so much better about that.
Yeah, that's amazing. And yeah, my experience again is so similar to that. And
Mm-hmm.
um, like I never considered myself an intelligent person. Like growing up, I was like, I still say it, I'm like the least intelligent person in my family. And when I say that, I mean like textbook intelligence, like going to college and getting straight A's and that kind of stuff was just never my game, you know? Like, I was never good at that stuff. And um I grew up in a family where it was highly competitive and people got like straight A's and they, graduated as engineers and
Mm.
accountants and doctors and pharmacists. And I'm here with my communication degree and they like, what's that?
Man.
So yeah, so intelligence was never something I labeled myself as. But yeah, I've actually come to realize that I actually am very intelligent in a lot of different ways.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's like it can be subjective sometime. Like, what do you think is intelligence for you? Like,
Mm,
is it just memorizing? Are you really great at memorizing and regurgitating information? Or can you take these concepts that people give you, abstract concepts, and apply them to all kinds of things?
mm.
That's intelligence as well. Emotional intelligence comes down to it. I think that you have all that stuff. So I don't know about the
Yeah.
textbook stuff because you didn't
Uh,
say that, but I can tell. I can definitely tell that you're definitely in tune and aware of emotional intelligence and all.
yeah, I think that
Of
would be my
course.
strong point, emotional
Yeah.
intelligence. Textbook stuff, it really depends on the stuff. Like I've been trying to read this book for a long time, The Gendered Brain, and there's a lot of terminology as I can't get past in that book, and I've just not gotten into it very much. So my brain can be pretty lazy sometimes.
Oh yeah, for sure. Hey, maybe yeah, maybe the book isn't exciting. It
I
could
mean,
be. Is it?
it is in
What?
some ways. There's just
Oh
a
yeah.
lot of medical terms in it that I'm not familiar
Oh.
with, and I'm just
Mm.
like, ugh, I don't want to sit with a dictionary for every single word that I'm reading.
Oh yeah, I can imagine that.
And then I'll read like a few paragraphs and I'll be like, ugh, this is
Yeah.
enough information for now.
Because you have to go look it up in a dictionary, like, okay, there's two paragraphs, there's 5, 10 words I didn't understand. You gotta go find those words.
Yeah, I'm not making my case for intelligence very well here. Let's move on.
I
Well,
I can just completely relate to that. Like I was reading a book called the Paradox of Choice, and I was thinking like, well, there's a lot of information in here, but it just doesn't seem to click with me. So
yeah.
yeah.
It really depends on what I'm taking in and how. Yeah, and I think honestly I think that's with anyone. I think we all have our areas where we're more interested in and where we're less interested in, and that's why I have a lot to say about our school systems right now.
Mm-hmm. Definitely.
Yeah, but
And
let's oh sorry, God.
well, I was going to say on that note about confidence, I mean, that's kind of where the confidence comes in. It's like, well, yeah, I know that this isn't my jam, so I know what something is, and
Mm,
that's fine.
And that's
Yeah.
totally fine. Yeah, it's kind of like brings me back to my competitiveness with my cousins. I always had a cousin who was like around my age, and in my family, whenever you're around someone's age, they put you against each other, man. you
Wow.
you're like in that wrestling ring from the time you're born.
Who can crawl first?
Yeah,
Who's
no, exactly. I'm not even lying. It's literally that. Who spoke
what?
first? Who crawled first? Who ate their first whole like proper food? They
Oh my
literally
goodness.
count these things. I guess that even wouldn't be surprised if an aunt had like a book somewhere where she actually wrote all these things down. I would not be surprised.
Wow.
And this cousin of mine, like I had a lot of self-confidence issues growing up because she was everything above me. She was slim, she was beautiful, she was intelligent, and she checked all the boxes that my family kind of wanted. And I was like always awkward. I was extremely overweight. I had huge acne problems. I was not a textbook person. I hated
Mm.
school. So I always like grew up in her shadow. And then when my confidence actually started to come out was when I realized, like right now in my life, I'm exactly where I want to be in my life. Like she's married, she has the kids, she has a safe career, and I'm married for the second time. I have no kids. I do not have a safe career at all.
Hmm.
But you know what? I'm exactly where I want to be. I'm happy. I've lived in different countries. I've traveled. I travel alone. My husband, he allows me, inverted commas, because the culture I come from, husbands have to allow you to do stuff. And my husband, we don't have that sort of relationship. So, I can do whatever I want. I can travel whenever I want. I can go anywhere. I have my freedom, and I don't have the pressure to have kids when I'm
Hmm.
young. I can have kids whenever the fuck I want. And you know what? Science. I can, I can wait. Science will
uh,
help me.
that is so awesome. I dare I say that you have broken a pattern.
Yeah, no, absolutely. I have. Yeah. And I think that that's kind of the moment where I realized that she's good at her stuff and she's good at fitting into the mold, and I'm good at my stuff, and I broke that mold, and I'm perfectly happy with that. And if my family still puts us against each other in their mind, it's their problem. And that reminds me of what you said that I wanted to
Exactly.
come back to, that it's actually not, it's their problem and not ours. And
Hmm.
for me, that was a big moment in my life in realizing my own self-worth, like the problems that I had with a certain person in my family. If they still have those issues with me, I free myself from that because that's their issue to work on, not mine. and
Absolutely.
and
Yeah.
I actually confronted that person and told him that.
Oh,
Yeah, I did.
so please tell me the story. How did this go?
I don't know. Well, what happened was I was in therapy for it, because like I told you, it follows you everywhere, right?
Absolutely.
And I was in therapy for it because something really big happened. It was a year or two ago. I don't know. Time is just so irrelevant right now, but I think it was like 2 years ago that something really huge happened. And 2020, we're like, what the hell?
What is
What
that?
timeline am I in now? But yeah, something huge happened in my life, and it just it set off my anxiety. It triggered me. My depression just all came back. My mental health was a mess. I had a panic attack. I had a breakdown, and my life was just a mess. And I started picking up weight again. And then I went into therapy, and I was like, I gotta beat this monster now. Like, I have to face this. I have to climb this bridge. And I was so lucky to have had the therapist that I had at that time, because she worked with me to write a letter to this person. And every session we worked on this letter, and we used, have you heard of nonverbal communication? Sorry,
Yes.
not nonverbal. That's from my English teaching job.
Nonviolent?
Nonviolent communication. Sorry, we use nonverbal communication every day at my job, and that's the first one that came, is nonviolent communication. That's the one.
I know that flipping the bird is also nonverbal communication, but probably
And
not something that you wanted to
it's
do.
probably very violent, right?
Yeah.
So yeah, so she made me learn about nonviolent communication, and we applied that to writing this letter. And I got out every single thing that I ever wanted to tell this person in that letter. And I sent it to them as an email. The person never responded to me, so I don't know how it was ever taken.
Ah,
But I will say that that person has, after that, made an effort to be nice to me.
wow. That's absolutely amazing. Like I I am wowed by it and I'm glad that it happened. I mean, it's like I feel like a bit surprised, but delighted. I think that's the word I want to say. It's more delighted
What
because
surprises you?
surprises me that they responded in that way. Like they responded in like the way they did was to be more nicer to you. But and I mean, the fact that you went through the process, I find that really delightful. That you took the time and effort to like sit down and unpack your stuff and put it down on a piece of paper. There's a lot of people will not do that. They'll just
Mm,
kind of maybe take out the laundry, wash it a little bit, put it back on, put it back away. They
yeah.
don't really take the time to do that. And the success that you found with it is, you know, a testament to therapy. And I think, you know, everyone should go talk to someone, get some therapy, some introspection. It's not as a what is it? There's a bad connotation to it or stigmatized as before.
Yes.
Is the success
It's
that
not.
you've had with it, what I've had with it, you know, talking to people,
Yeah.
it's
Tell me
amazing.
more about your success with it. I feel like we've talked about me enough.
Oh yeah. Well, my success with it was just like yours. You know, I have not written that letter. I think that's what I really like about it is writing that letter, that idea, because it just I got a gift actually that I don't like, um, and it may sound ungrateful or something along those lines. But when I look at this thing, I have to employ that idea that well, this person gave me something that I been saying for years that I'm not interested in, I don't really care for, I don't want, and I'm disappointed to receive this because I want this person to know me and see me for who I
Mm,
am. And when I get this gift, it definitely defeats everything about me. Like it just says nothing about who I am. It
mm,
says everything about who they are. And to be able to like take a deep breath and remember that it's not about me. They see me in the way they see me.
mm.
And so they gave this gift to me that and they're hoping that I'll use it, I'll enjoy it, and I will like uh start thinking like they will. And
Yeah,
I'm over here on this side trying to think like, well, I want you to think like me. I want you to give me the thing I want, which is
not gonna
time and
happen.
attention. I just want a conversation
Not
rather
gonna
than
happen.
a physical thing. Yeah, and it's
Um,
not going to happen.
yeah, I mean, I like that you said like they gave you a gift that's not you, but like they also gave you a gift of who they want you to be.
Mm-hmm.
Their idea of who they want you to be. I can see that you're not telling us what the gift is, so that must be something very personal.
Oh, you know what? It's a Bible, actually.
Okay.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah,
So it's
so
something like that.
let me tell you, when I got married to my husband, well, my family gave us a prayer mat and a Quran, and neither of us are Muslim.
That's so funny. Is I think we're so similar in this whole thing here. Yeah, because like, what am I supposed to do with that? And so this, I
Yeah,
mean,
I've got mine on the shelf, and I actually like I grew up in I never I don't think I've said this out loud on my podcast actually, but yeah, I always say I grew up in a religious family, but it was a Muslim family, and I'm not religious anymore. I don't believe in in any religion anymore. But I am interested in religions, and I like to go back to the scriptures. I like to read them. I like to see what's in them. So I do look at it from time to time. Actually, it's not that I don't ever pick it up. I do. It's a translation of the Quran, so I do. I actually do. My mom, I don't know if she'd actually be happy to hear this or be shocked to hear this, but I do actually read it sometimes just to Just out of curiosity, because I've read most of it, but it's just interesting to go back and see what's in it, and also
Hmm.
remind myself the things I don't like about it as
Hmm.
well, and the things that led me to the part that I am. And also, it is embedded in my family and my culture as well.
Yeah, and so I do have this thing. I'm not sure what I'm going to do with it. Like, I thought immediately that I need to keep this because it's a reminder of, what our relationship is going to be like. Like, nothing's going to change about this relationship. And it's also a reminder that, well, of course, nothing's going to change. So I have to do a lot of heavy mental work to not get upset. This is within the expectations. If I
Mm.
haven't learned in 30 something years by now, I'm never going to learn. Like, this is what I can expect. And
Yeah,
so if I want the kind of relationship, if I want any kind of relationship, I have to expect that kind of thing.
yeah.
And do I want to move my boundary? Do I want to? So that's where,
Mm.
like, when you talked about writing that letter, this is where it took me thinking about that. Well, you know, I will never be able to say what I want to them. I will never, I don't believe that I'll be able to get them to behave the way I want them to, and vice versa. They're not going to change me. So I do have some feelings about that, and I need to process them.
Yeah.
And writing that letter is something that I don't think I have done. I've not done it. So I think that sounds like a good idea for me.
If it is for you, I mean, definitely find what's right for you. That's something
Yeah,
I 100% encourage in this podcast. It's for people to do what's right for them.
absolutely.
100%.
Absolutely.
And it's actually quite interesting because one of the aspects I touched on in my letter was my the person that I wrote to, and my relationship with wearing the hijab, and actually not wearing it because I'm not Muslim anymore.
Mm,
and, and it was just kind of like stated in the letter that I'm gonna dress like I dress respectfully in front of my family because that's the culture, but I'm not gonna wear the hijab because I'm not Muslim, and I don't want to. I've never wanted to wear it. Maybe like a short period in my life where I actually wanted to wear it, but most of my life I didn't want to.
hmm.
And I kind of just kind of set, like you said, set that boundary that that's not going to happen. You either accept it or you process that feeling on your own, but that's
Yeah.
not going to change my behavior.
Hmm. Exactly. Exactly. Yeah. It's for them to deal with. It's like,
I explicitly said that. I was like, this is something you need to deal with. This is your something. It's an issue for you, but it's not for me, and it's not going to
yeah.
change.
Exactly. I mean, like,
Just because you
they're.
don't like it, it's not going to change. It's kind of like that's not how life works, honey.
Yeah. Like, like when you were a kid, I guess you could throw temper tantrums and get your way, but we're adults here now. You
Well,
know.
way into the episode, and we haven't even touched on 2020. We have gone back in time way beyond 2020. But you know what, Lee? I'm not sure about you, but I feel like people like us who have had like really difficult live periods in our lives, that 2020 is not as traumatic on us as it might be on other people.
Yes, you hit the nail right on the head for me because I was going to say that, like, wow, I remember when there was a summer holiday came around. I think it was Memorial Day when it was like the first major holiday in the US, and we were just like, oh, we can't go do anything. It's so sunny outside. It's amazing. And I was like, I'm used to this, like not going anywhere, not having any people to connect with.
Oh
So
my God,
I'm
yes.
fine. I'm gonna watch some TV, maybe read a book.
Oh,
Sorry for everybody else. And then
yeah.
yeah, so it wasn't as traumatic. It was an opportunity to actually thrive, like get a bit more of like I felt like everyone who is stuck is going to get a glimpse and understand of what I've been experiencing for most of my life. Or this emptiness and this loneliness and not being sure how to connect with people. And so now I'm like, well, looking at 2020, everyone is like what I was for the last 30 something years.
Yeah.
I know how to get out of this. So I'm going to tell everybody how you can get out of it, how you can make better connections, because you don't have to be physically close with people to make these genuine connections. What you need is just genuine conversation,
Mm-hmm.
someone interested in you, some confidence, just feeling like you're a part of something, feeling like you're loved. And you can definitely get connection by doing that.
Absolutely. And I mean, I think you are like really a good example of that because Lee and I connected on Instagram, right?
Yeah.
And I feel like Lee has been so you've just been so easy to talk to, and I've really enjoyed connecting with you, and yeah,
Yeah.
and we live in different countries. We didn't mention that. Which country are you in?
I'm in the Chicago in the United States.
Yeah, yeah. So yeah, so totally different countries, and we've never met in person.
I know. And I'm hoping that in February, the country looks a lot different than what it looks now. Just like, yay, hooray. So I'm looking forward to that in 2021.
Yay.
Yeah. But
I was just thinking, like we were talking about like 2020 not being that most traumatic year for us personally. Not just again, I always say this, not discounting that it was traumatic for a lot of people. That's there for sure. But I'm just thinking, like when you said that, I can already pinpoint the most traumatic year of my life and the way it destroyed me. Can you?
no, I can't picture.
There was
I
no one
cannot
year,
picture. No, it doesn't seem to be like there was one year that did anything that really, they were all
all a mix.
equally just mixed up there. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, for me, it was like several years that it was like that, but there was this one year, like I've been writing a memoir of my life,
Oh,
and I recently wrote that year. And Lee, when I was writing that year, I was like, how did, like, how did you get through that year? I just don't
wow.
understand how I got through that year. It was just so traumatic. There was just
Wow.
so many things happening to me in that one year that broke me, like broke me in so many ways. And I actually did have, I spoke about it on another podcast episode, but I actually did have like a physical response where I blanked out and I almost fainted out of shock in
Whoa.
that year. And it never happened to me before in my life that happened in that year. And it was the craziest year of my life. And that's why for me, I feel like 2020 was
Was not too
a
bad.
holiday compared to that.
Wow. I'm so intrigued, of course, and I can't wait for that memoir to come out. But of course, after like 2020, I mean, I'm sure that like you probably picked up some great coping skills to deal with 2020. And I think that's what helped me a lot too, was like, the coping skills already, the trauma and the loneliness that I've dealt with, and that,
Mhm.
the other things that have happened. And I could say though also that I've been fortunate enough to be able to telework and work remotely. So I've been
Same.
able to do that too. So there hasn't been a disruption in that way. So I haven't seen a huge disruption like many other people have to deal with that financial trauma, or the being. I also live alone, and I also don't have any kids. So I also have just a responsibility to myself. So I have a lot of things working for me in this place where it seems like everyone just has to do the best they can alone. So I've been doing that for a while. So just developing those coping mechanisms. And I realized that, it's been difficult for other people who may not have experienced that, who may have
It
always had a loving family around them to help them and support them, and not be able to touch that or see that anymore. It's really difficult.
it is. No, for sure. And I think going on from that, like what would you say to those people? Like having the tools yourself, having the skills yourself, the coping mechanisms, what would you say to them to to help them get through this? Because we still hopefully by the time this comes out, we'd be a little bit more free. But
Yes.
at this current moment, we're still in lockdown. Uh
Hmm.
Numbers are
Yeah.
still all over the place.
Well, I would say that, just drawing off of my own experience, of the reason why I could not connect with other people is because I didn't have a clear sense of my own self. I had no idea who I was or what I really wanted. So I would tolerate just about anything because I thought that that was how I would connect with people. So here you are alone in this time where you have to spend a lot of time looking at yourself in the mirror, seeing who you are, getting to know yourself. So I'd recommend that you spend some time to really get to know you, who you are, what you like, and what you'll stand for, what your values are. Spend some time really working on you. So when
Mm,
you come out of this, you come out with a whole new outlook on life. Maybe you'll pick up a skill that you didn't have before. Like maybe you lost your job that you just didn't like anyway, but you were doing that because you had to. And then now you have this time and freedom to be as creative as you ever wanted to be.
mm,
And now you have this fuel and fire behind you because you need to get paid. You need that money. You've got a runway. Go for it. There's
mm,
a lot of the world is going to change. The world has changed because of this. And you can come out of your house when this pandemic is over feeling like you can run the world, basically. Just so much confidence in who you are. So I'd recommend spending time to get to know yourself. And
mm,
when you do that, um, if you have access to the internet, go find people who like to do the thing that you like to do. And you're going to find camaraderie in there because it's already connecting because you like to do those things.
mm.
It's already, yeah. So that's what I recommend.
Yeah, I think that being alone with yourself can be very scary depending on where you are mentally in your life. For
Yeah.
sure. Because yeah, I mean I did speak about it in one of my episodes on the emotion season, where I had become like the worst possible version of myself. And I hated being alone with myself at that period in my life. Like I would not have been able to. So if anyone's in that kind of a situation, my heart
Yeah.
goes out to you right now.
Yeah, I had not thought about that, but and then so I would say another recommendation is like, treat yourself as different people. Like, I mean, like there's a past you, there's a present you, there's a future you. Treat yourself that way and start trying to have a conversation with your past you and your present you, or your past you and your future you, because okay, you're alone with your thoughts, and that's absolutely terrible. Like personify those thoughts or something and tell them what you think about them or tell them how you feel about them. But yeah, I'm not a licensed therapist, so
Neither am I.
I'm going to put that out there. I'm going to put
Neither
that
am
out there.
I.
It's just
Well,
it's just something that I thought of, but yeah,
like I say to my audience again and again, do what's right for you
absolutely.
personally as a person. We are just
Hmm.
voicing our experiences and what works for us, but at the end of the day, you do what's right for you. Don't take our word for it.
Absolutely, absolutely. Yeah, and I would say that yeah, my heart goes out to that too because I hadn't even thought about that. But yes, everyone has their own experiences.
Mm. Yeah, I know. I mean, like I think I'm blessed to be in a part of my life where I absolutely loved my own company. As conceited as that sounds. But I know
It's how,
there was a time in my life where I absolutely hated my own company. So
yeah,
it
it's
depends where we are.
yeah, it's how everyone should sound, like conceited, like hey, I love me, I'm so awesome.
Gosh, there's so much more we could touch on, Lee, and I would love to have you on again. I feel
Oh
like we
yeah,
didn't even get onto half of the things that we planned to talk about today. But I
yeah.
feel like we really got into some great stuff. So yeah, I think I feel like you've already gave your actionable steps. So did you have any more that you wanted to leave the audience with for going into the new year?
I would say that this is something that I'm all about learning about yourself. So just be curious, more curious than judgmental, more curious than anything, and you will find yourself in I think a more empowering place.
Absolutely. Yeah, that's a great place to end it there. And thank you so much, Lee, for coming on today. And I definitely would love to have you on again to dive into deeper topics with you. It's been so fun.
Absolutely. Yes, it has been a joy to chat with you too. And I'd like to tell your listeners where they could find me.
Of course, go for it.
That's all right. Yeah, you can find me at patternsofpossibility.com. And and any social media, I'm on at Patterns of Possibility. And in February, late February, I have a workshop coming up called End Loneliness Now.
Oh,
And yes, it is all about making the connections between you and other people and how to do that. So you're going to find some great tips on that. For more information about that, again, visit patternsofpossibility.com.
amazing. What kind of content can we find on your show?
Oh, yes, I do have a podcast, and you're going to find all kinds of stories about my life. So, the general format is that I share some kind of story or share some tool that you could possibly use in your life to make a better connection or be better with communicating. And then I talk about an experience that I've had with this, and then it can be an embarrassing story because getting rid of shame is a part of it too. And that's I set it to music, and if you like storytelling, I try to present it in a very fun and interesting way.
Yeah, I would definitely say it's worth checking out. I'll leave you guys with a teaser because I listened to the Oreo episode and I had so many thoughts about that, so much I could connect with. And I'm definitely going to have Lee back on to discuss that episode. We were supposed to discuss it today, but we didn't get into it yet. But next time we definitely will.
Yeah, next time if you listen to it, come up with some questions and we can talk about those questions.
Amazing. Well, thank you, Lee, and we'll see everyone on the next episode.
All right, thank you so much, Hannah.
Thanks so much for tuning in to another episode of Refreshingly Human with myself, Hannah Pillow. It's been great having you join me today. If you liked my content, please do share it with a friend you think would find it interesting and subscribe to the show as well. I would love to have you listening in to many episodes to come. You can find me on the socials. I'm on Facebook as Refreshingly Human and Instagram as Hannah Pillow. See you next time.